America, stop scrolling right now. This could be one of the most important coin stories you'll hear today. Somewhere in America, a forgotten Lincoln Wheat Penny is sitting in an old coin jar, dusty drawer, piggy bank, or family collection, and it could be worth far more than anyone realizes. What if I told you that a simple 1-cent coin, something most people overlook every day, could be worth $500,000 or even more? Sounds unbelievable. But rare wheat pennies have shocked collectors before, and some of the most valuable examples were discovered in ordinary places where nobody expected to find them. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of the Lincoln Wheat Penny, one of the most iconic and collectible coins in American history. For decades, these copper pennies circulated through stores, banks, and cash registers across the United States. Most were spent without a second thought. But a few rare varieties, mint errors, and high-grade survivors have become legendary among coin collectors. In today's video, we're counting down the top 3 most valuable, rare, and expensive Lincoln Wheat pennies ever discovered, coins that could turn an ordinary collection into a collector's dream. Let's get started. Up coin number 1L. The most fascinating stories in American coin history. Somewhere in a forgotten coin jar, inside an old collection album, buried in a dusty drawer, or passed down through generations of family history, there may be a 1943 D wheat penny waiting to be noticed. Most people see an old penny and assume it is worth almost nothing. They overlook it, spend it, or leave it untouched for years. But sometimes the smallest coins carry the biggest stories, and the 1943 D steel wheat penny is one of the greatest examples of that truth. To understand why this coin became so famous, we must travel back to one of the most dramatic periods of the 20th century. The world was at war. Nations were fighting across continents. Factories operated around the clock. Every resource mattered. Every pound of metal was important. Copper was urgently needed for military equipment, communication systems, and wartime production. As a result, the United States made a decision unlike anything it had done before. For 1 year, the familiar copper Lincoln cent would change completely. In 1943, American pennies were struck using steel coated with zinc. For the first time, millions of people looked at their pocket change and saw a silver-colored cent instead of the traditional copper color they had known their entire lives. It felt unusual. It looked different. It immediately became one of the most recognizable coins in American history. Among those coins was the 1943 D wheat penny, struck at the Denver Mint. Identified by the small D mint mark beneath the date, this coin entered circulation during one of the most important years in world history. It moved through stores, factories, train stations, military communities, and everyday transactions. Every coin became a tiny witness to a nation focused on victory, sacrifice, and determination. At first, nobody thought these steel pennies would become famous. They were simply money. They bought food, newspapers, and everyday necessities. But time has a way of transforming ordinary objects into historical artifacts. As decades passed, collectors began to appreciate the unique story behind the 1943 steel cent. It represented a moment when an entire country adjusted its currency because of global events. The steel composition made these coins different from every wheat penny that came before and after. Their appearance was distinctive. Their history was extraordinary. And because many became damaged, corroded, or lost over the years, surviving examples gained increasing attention from collectors. Imagine a coin produced during wartime America. A coin that may have traveled through countless hands. A coin that survived generations of economic changes, technological revolutions, and social transformations. Every surviving 1943 D steel cent carries that journey within it. Collectors are fascinated by these coins because they tell a story that extends far beyond money. They tell a story about adaptation, resource management, and national determination. Few coins are so closely connected to a specific historical moment. Now here is where excitement enters the picture. Some people hear stories of valuable steel cents and immediately begin searching old collections. They check jars of change, inherited albums, and forgotten boxes hoping to discover something extraordinary. While most 1943D steel cents are not worth enormous fortunes, certain rare examples, unusual varieties, and exceptional condition specimens can attract strong collector interest. This possibility is what keeps the hunt alive. Every old collection carries potential. Every forgotten penny deserves a closer look. Collectors know that remarkable discoveries often begin with coins that appear completely ordinary at first glance. The 1943D wheat penny also reminds us of something deeper. History is not always found in museums. Sometimes it exists in everyday objects that survive long enough to tell their stories. A small steel cent can reveal an entire chapter of world history. It can connect modern collectors directly to the experiences of people who lived through one of the most challenging periods ever recorded. Think about the journey this coin has taken. It may have been carried by workers helping build wartime equipment. It may have passed through the hands of families, saving every penny they could. It may have traveled across states, through cities and towns, before finally arriving in a collection decades later. That is why collectors continue searching for wheat pennies. Not because every coin is valuable, but because every coin contains a story. Some stories are ordinary, some are remarkable, and occasionally, a story becomes unforgettable. So before you spend an old 1943D wheat penny, take a closer look. Examine the details. Appreciate the history. Consider the journey it has survived. Because hidden inside that small steel coin is a connection to one of the most significant moments in modern history. And somewhere, perhaps right now, another 1943D wheat penny is waiting quietly in an old collection, ready for someone to discover the incredible story it has carried through time. Next up. Because hidden somewhere inside an old coin jar, forgotten collection, dusty drawer, or family keepsake box may be a coin carrying a story far greater than its face value. Most people see an old penny and think it is nothing more than spare change from another era. They overlook it, spend it, or leave it untouched for years. But sometimes history chooses the smallest objects to preserve the biggest stories. Today we are talking about the 1953D Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that represents far more than 1 cent. It represents survival, history, memory, and a direct connection to a fascinating chapter of American life. To truly understand the importance of this coin, we must first understand the long journey of money itself. Thousands of years ago, people did not use coins. Goods were exchanged through trade. Farmers traded crops for tools. Craftsmen traded products for food. Over time, civilizations searched for a more reliable way to exchange value. Metal objects eventually became accepted as a standard form of payment. Ancient societies developed some of the earliest coinage systems, creating pieces of metal that could travel across cities, kingdoms, and continents. As centuries passed, coins evolved alongside civilization itself. Empires rose and fell. Nations expanded. Trade networks connected distant regions of the world. Every era created its own currency, and every currency became a record of history. Coins were more than money. They became symbols of governments, economies, and cultures. Fast forward through centuries of human progress, and we arrive in the United States during the 20th century. By this time, coins had become part of everyday life. Among the most famous American coin designs was the Lincoln Wheat Penny. Introduced in 1909, it became the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. Abraham Lincoln's portrait gave the coin a powerful identity, while the wheat stalks on the reverse symbolized prosperity and growth. The year 1953 arrived during a period of confidence and expansion in America. Communities were growing. Industries were thriving. Families were building new lives after years of global uncertainty. In the middle of this changing world, millions of wheat pennies were produced and distributed across the nation. Among them was the 1953 D wheat penny, struck at the Denver Mint. Identified by the small D mint mark beneath the date, this coin entered circulation and immediately became part of daily life. It traveled through grocery stores, gas stations, schools, restaurants, and countless businesses. People carried it in pockets, purses, wallets, and cash registers. Nobody imagined that decades later collectors would still be talking about it. What makes coins like the 1953 D wheat penny so fascinating is not simply their age. It is their journey through time. Every surviving coin has witnessed decades of history. It has survived economic changes, technological revolutions, and generational shift. It has traveled through countless hands before arriving in modern collections. Many of these pennies experienced heavy circulation. Their details became worn. Their surfaces collected marks from years of use. Some disappeared entirely. Others remained hidden for decades. Yet a small number survived in stronger condition, preserving details that collectors continue to admire today. This is where the world of coin collecting becomes truly exciting. Collectors understand that not all coins age the same way. Some survive with sharper details. Some retain stronger original surfaces. Some display characteristics that make them more desirable than ordinary examples. Tiny differences can attract significant attention from dedicated collectors. The Wheat Penny series remains one of the most beloved coin series in American history because it combines accessibility with historical importance. Almost everyone has encountered a penny at some point in life, yet few people stop to think about the stories hidden inside those small copper coins. Imagine holding a 1953 D wheat penny and thinking about where it may have traveled. It may have helped pay for a meal. It may have purchased a newspaper carrying headlines that are now history. It may have been saved by a child, forgotten in a drawer, rediscovered years later, and eventually placed into a collection. Every possibility adds another chapter to its story. Collectors are often drawn to coins because they represent tangible history. Unlike photographs or books, a coin physically existed during the events it represents. It moved through society. It participated in daily life. It became part of the historical record without anyone realizing it at the time. The 1953 D wheat penny reminds us that historical treasures do not always appear dramatic or obvious. Sometimes they are small, simple, and easy to overlook. Yet their significance grows with time. Decades later, they become surviving witnesses to an era that no longer exists. This is why experienced collectors encourage people to examine old coins carefully. Not because every coin is rare, but because every coin has a story. Occasionally, a story becomes especially interesting. Occasionally, a coin survives in remarkable condition. Occasionally, an ordinary object becomes a cherished historical artifact. The enduring popularity of the wheat penny proves that people remain fascinated by the past. These coins connect generations. They allow collectors to hold a small piece of history in the palm of their hand. They transform everyday currency into something meaningful and memorable. So before you ignore an old wheat penny, before you assume it has no importance, take a closer look. Check the date. Examine the details. Think about the journey that coin has taken across decades of history. Because sometimes the greatest discoveries begin with something as simple as a single penny. And somewhere right now, a 1953 D wheat penny may still be waiting quietly in an old collection, carrying a remarkable story that has survived for generations and is ready to be discovered once again. Next up. Because what you are about to hear could completely change the way you look at every old wheat penny hiding inside your home. Right now, somewhere in a forgotten coin jar, an old family collection, a dusty wooden drawer, or a box that has not been opened in decades, there may be a 1955 D Lincoln Wheat penny quietly waiting to be discovered. Most people see an old penny and think it is nothing more than spare change from the past. They overlook it. They spend it. They ignore it. But history has a strange habit of hiding its greatest stories inside the smallest objects, and the Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of the greatest examples of that truth. To understand the importance of this coin, we must first travel back through the long history of money itself. Thousands of years ago, before coins existed, people traded goods directly. Farmers exchanged grain for tools. Craftsmen traded their work for food. Communities relied on barter because there was no universal system of value. As civilizations expanded, people realized they needed something more practical. Metal objects became accepted as a medium of exchange. Over centuries, those simple pieces of metal evolved into coins that could travel across kingdoms, empires, and continents. The story of coinage became the story of civilization itself. Ancient societies created coins that represented power, trade, and identity. Empires rose and fell, but coins remained. They crossed borders, survived wars, and recorded history in metal. Every generation created new currency, yet every coin carried a message about the time in which it was made. Fast forward through centuries of human progress, and we arrive in 20th century America, where one of the most recognizable coin designs in history entered circulation. The Lincoln Wheat Penny first appeared in 1909 and quickly became a national symbol. Featuring Abraham Lincoln on the front and two wheat stalks on the reverse, it represented both leadership and prosperity. For decades it traveled through every corner of the nation, becoming part of everyday life. By 1955, America was experiencing a period of remarkable growth. New neighborhoods were being built. Highways stretched across the country. Businesses expanded. Families looked toward a future filled with opportunity. In the middle of this era of optimism, millions of wheat pennies were produced and released into circulation. Among them was the 1955 D wheat penny, struck at the Denver Mint. The small D mint mark beneath the date identified its place of origin, but to most Americans it was simply another penny. It moved through grocery stores, restaurants, movie theaters, gas stations, and local businesses. It was carried in pockets, dropped into cash registers, saved in piggy banks, and exchanged millions of times without anyone imagining that decades later collectors would still be discussing it. This is where the story becomes fascinating. At the moment of creation, nobody knew which coins would survive. Nobody knew which coins would be preserved. Nobody knew which coins would disappear forever. Time became the deciding factor. Some pennies experienced decades of heavy circulation. Others were lost. Some were damaged beyond recognition. Yet a small number survived in surprisingly strong condition, preserving details that continue to attract attention today. Collectors understand something most people overlook. Not all coins age equally. Two pennies from the same year can follow completely different paths. One may become heavily worn, while another remains sharp and attractive. One may disappear, while another survives untouched in a collection. These differences create the excitement that drives coin collecting. The 1955 D wheat penny represents more than 1 cent. It represents an era. It represents the people who carried it and the society that produced it. Every mark on the coin tells part of its story. Every scratch reflects a journey through time. Every surviving example connects modern collectors directly to the 1950s. Imagine the possibilities. A single penny may have purchased a newspaper carrying major headlines. It may have bought a candy bar for a child after school. It may have passed through the hands of workers, students, business owners, and families. It may have traveled hundreds of miles across states before eventually finding its way into a collection. Few objects experience such a remarkable journey. This is why wheat pennies remain so popular among collectors. They are accessible pieces of history. Unlike rare artifacts hidden behind museum glass, these coins can still be found in old collections and family keepsake. They provide a direct connection to another time. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series also carries special significance because it witnessed some of the most important decades in American history. From economic change to technological progress, from wartime sacrifice to post-war growth, These coins circulated through moments that shaped the modern world. Every surviving penny carries traces of that history. Many collectors spend years searching through old coin groups hoping to find hidden treasures, not because every penny is valuable, but because every penny has potential. Sometimes the excitement comes from discovering an unusually well-preserved example. Sometimes it comes from finding an interesting variety. Sometimes it comes simply from uncovering a piece of history that has survived against the odds. The 1955 Wheat penny reminds us that value is not always measured only in dollars. Historical significance matters. Survival matters. The connection between past and present matters. Coins become meaningful because they preserve stories that might otherwise be forgotten. So before you ignore an old wheat penny, take a closer look. Check the date. Examine the details. Think about where that coin may have traveled and what events it may have witnessed. Because history often hides in plain sight, waiting for someone to recognize its importance. And somewhere right now, a 1955 Wheat penny may still be resting quietly inside an old collection, carrying decades of history, preserving memories of another era, and waiting patiently for the next person who will appreciate the remarkable journey it has taken through time.